Rome had known peace, a golden age of law and faith under its second king, Numa Pompilius. For decades, the temples remained open and the gates of the war god Janus were closed. But peace is a fragile thing, and after Numa's death, a new king would rise. A man who believed Rome's destiny was not found in prayer, but in the clash of steel. This is the story of Tullus Hostilius, the warrior king, the man who forged Rome in the fires of battle. Unlike his predecessor, Tullus Hostilius was not a man of piety and peace. He was raised in the shadow of Romulus, the city's founder, and believed that greatness was seized, not given. From a young age, he was known for his aggressive spirit and burning ambition. Where Numa saw the gods in quiet rituals and sacred groves, Tullus saw them on the battlefield, favoring the bold and the victorious. He believed Rome had grown soft, its people lulled into a false sense of security. He was determined to reawaken the city's martial spirit, to remind the world that Romans were wolves, not sheep. The era of peace was over. The age of conquest was about to begin. The first and most defining conflict of his reign was not against a foreign enemy, but against Rome's own mother city, Alba Longa. For years, a tense rivalry had simmered between the two powers, escalating from cattle raids to full-blown skirmishes. War seemed inevitable, a tragic conflict that would pit brother against brother. But even in this age of iron, the leaders sought to avoid a catastrophic loss of life. They agreed to a truly legendary solution: a trial by combat. The fate of both cities would be decided by a duel between two sets of triplets. For Rome, the three Heracea brothers. For Alba Longa, the three Curidi brothers. The armies of Rome and Alba Longa gathered on the field, not to fight, but to watch. The six champions stepped forward, the hopes of their people resting on their shoulders. The fight was brutal and swift. At first, it seemed Rome was doomed. Two of the Heracei fell, leaving their last brother to face all three Curidi alone. The Alban army roared in triumph, while the Romans watched in horrified silence. But the last Horatius was not just strong. He was clever. Pretending to flee, he separated his three opponents. As they pursued him, tired and wounded, he turned and cut them down, one by one. Against all odds, he secured a miraculous victory for Rome. Alba Longa was now subject to Roman rule, but the king of Alba Longa, Methius Fofatus, was a man of cunning and deceit. He had sworn allegiance to Rome, but his heart burned with resentment. When Rome went to war against the nearby cities of Fidna and Veii, Methius saw his chance. He marched his Alban army to the battlefield, supposedly as Rome's ally. But as the battle raged, he held his forces back, waiting to see who would win before committing. Tullus Hostilius saw the betrayal unfolding. In a stroke of tactical genius, he roared to his own men that the Albans were moving to outflank the enemy on his orders. This lie boosted Roman morale and terrified the Fidnots, who broke and fled. Rome was victorious, no thanks to their treacherous allies. Tullus's fury was absolute. Betrayal could not be tolerated. After the battle, he summoned the Alban king. In front of both armies, he condemned Methius Fofatus. For his treachery, the punishment was horrific and legendary, a symbol of Roman justice. But for the city of Alba Longa itself, Tullus had a different plan. He would not leave a nest of potential traitors on his doorstep. He gave a stunning order. Alba Longa was to be razed to the ground. Every building was to be torn down, every home destroyed. Its entire population was to be forcibly relocated to Rome. Imagine the scene. Thousands of families forced to abandon the city their ancestors had built, a city that had stood for centuries. They marched towards Rome, not as conquerors, but as refugees, their homes burning behind them. This act was both brutal and brilliant. In a single stroke, Tullus Hostilius eliminated a rival and doubled the population of Rome. The city swelled in size, its power and manpower instantly magnified. The hills of Rome filled with new citizens, new soldiers for its ever-growing legions. Rome was no longer just a city, it was becoming an empire, absorbing its neighbors and growing stronger with each conquest. With Alba Longa gone and his power consolidated, Tullus turned his attention to his other neighbors. He led successful campaigns against the Sabines and other Latin tribes, constantly pushing Rome's borders outward. His reign was a whirlwind of relentless warfare. He believed that a state of constant conflict kept his people sharp and his enemies fearful. Peace, to him, was a kind of decay. Under his leadership, the Roman army was transformed. He wasn't just a king who fought. He was a true general. He introduced new tactics, improved equipment, and instilled an iron discipline in his soldiers. He turned farmers and shepherds into a professional fighting force, a machine of conquest that would become the envy of the ancient world. Rome's reputation spread across the Italian peninsula, a city of warriors, led by a king who lived for battle. But while Tullus built Rome's earthly power, he neglected its spiritual foundations. He dismissed the religious rites and ceremonies that his predecessor Numa had so carefully established. He scoffed at piety, believing that victory was the only prayer that mattered. But as his reign wore on, a darkness fell over the city. A terrible plague swept through the population, striking down citizens and soldiers alike. The people saw it as a sign of divine anger. Even Tullus himself, the unbreakable warrior king, was struck down by a wasting illness. Faced with his own mortality and the suffering of his people, the king's arrogance finally cracked. He remembered the sacred texts of Numa and, in a desperate attempt to appease the heavens, tried to perform a secret ritual to Jupiter. But Tullus was a warrior, not a priest. He fumbled the ceremony, performing the rites incorrectly. The legends say that Jupiter, enraged by the king's lifetime of neglect and his clumsy, last-minute attempt at piety, unleashed his fury. A bolt of lightning struck the king's palace, and it erupted in flames. Tullus Hostilius, the man who had conquered cities and forged an army, was consumed by divine fire. His reign, which began in a thirst for glory, ended in ash. So what is the legacy of Tullus? He stands in stark contrast to the king who came before him. Numa gave Rome its soul, its laws, and its faith. Tullus gave Rome its sword. He was a brutal, ambitious, and relentless leader who cemented the military path that would define Rome for centuries. He taught the Romans that power grew from the end of a spear, and that empires are built on the ruins of their enemies. But his story is also a warning. It's a tale of how ambition without piety and power without humility can lead to ruin. Rome learned a valuable, if dangerous, lesson under Tullus. War brings glory, conquest brings wealth, but forgetting the gods invites destruction. The warrior king had made Rome strong, but he had also set it on a perilous and bloody road to destiny. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey back to ancient Rome, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from history. See you next time.